Whatever shoulder routine Nurglings have, I need to get on that as this little guy pops out of existence, because, to be honest, like, these guys can hold up Kugas, freaking Palanquin, they can hold up big old chunky boy Epidemius here, and this guy is gonna be just overhead pressing this hourglass the entire time. Very impressive, honestly, I can't do that. But what I can do is show you this replay of myself with Epidemius playing against the foul forces of Tzeentch. We've got the Changeling, who transformed into the Blue Scribes for Human Boy, and he's got the Regiment of Renown, Mutalith Vortex Beast, some Centaurs of Tzeentch, a couple of Flamers. Some of you have been asking me if Flamers have gotten the change. They didn't, because they're not the classic type of flamethrower. Their missile attack is a little bit different. You'll see in this replay, they're still quite effective. I mean, I don't think they really needed much changes, unlike the other flamethrowers. But yeah, Marauders of Tzeentch, we've got the Sour Guts, and some more Blues, the Chronic Abominations as well, and some more Centaurs over here. On my side, it's going to be Chaos Poison Warhounds in the flanks, lots of infantry, Marauders, and more Marauders, along with the Festering Stooges. We've got Soul Grinder here, Barons of the Bog. I did forget to bring a caster, yes, that's fine. The Chariots are going to be sacrificed immediately, to just run at the Flamers and absorb their missile fire. Since they have some armor, not a lot of my other stuff has armor, I figure they'd be good to kind of disrupt this front line, charge into the Flamers, even if they just completely die, which they're going to on the counter charge of the Centaurs. Sickly green Marauders will be able to follow up and butcher their blue brethren. Flub that one a bit, but hey, that's okay, because the Festering Stooges are charging on in, along with Barons of the Bog. Gonna try and hit up this Mutalith Vortex Beast with those grenades. Epidemius, of course, can summon another unit of Exalted Plague Bearers. I didn't really look at these abilities last time, because I don't think Okoye actually took them in the replay I showcased, but Sands of Sickness is a chain buff/debuff. Buffs friendly units with damage reflection and a vigor reduction. Debuffs enemies with melee defense and speed, right? And then he also has the summon, like I said, of Exalted Plague Bearers. So those are probably the best abilities. His other abilities are okay, like the one that specifically buffs demons. Probably would have been good for me to bring here, considering my kind of demon doom blob here with the Barons of the Bog and the Festering Stooges. But hey, we're going to get Epidemius into combat against the big one, the Mutalith. We're going to pull up the summon. Yep, Exalted Plague Bearers coming forth. You can see the Death's Heads raining in as the Mutalith starts to zap them up. Yeah, did a lot of damage with those Death's Heads. And Epidemius himself, of course, no pushover either in melee combat. Take a look at the rest of the battlefield here. Soul Grinders getting some good value shooting in, but the Tzeentchians, of course, are getting much better value shooting with their flames, flamers, blue fire, pink fire, all of the above. And it's looking pretty nasty. Festering Stooges effect goes off for lots of extra VFX. Quite a beautiful game with lots of greens and blues and pinks. Blue Scribes throwing around random spells. Haven't really been showcasing them too much, but the fact that the Changeling can actually transform into the Blue Scribes means you can take the Blue Scribes in your Lord slot, essentially, which is actually pretty good. It's arguably better than taking the Blue Scribes as your hero, right? Because just as a Lord, they're pretty expensive, so that way you don't have to take another Lord on top of them, just to kind of supplement them, right? They can fly around, they're relatively hard to snipe from a lot of factions, right? Because they're a flying missile unit, essentially. The randomized spells can also be a huge boon, depending on the situation, but I, unfortunately, am not having any boons, as I follow a little bit behind on the balance of power. My main line was kind of just crushed a little bit, and I don't really have a lot of great answers for these Centaurs, rather than just trying to outlast them, which potentially I might be able to. Certainly my Demon Doom blob is still alive, even though Barons of the Bog are suffering. I'm definitely feeling the lack of no healing from Lore of Nurgle, only relying on Fecundity, which, by the way, Nurgle's army ability did change as well. Now, rather than charging up from taking damage, it charges up from debuffing enemies, which, to be honest, I'm not a fan of. I thought it was fine before. I don't know why their army ability needed any changes. It didn't need any changes. And especially, not all Nurgle builds are going to have a lot of debuffs. So, and I'm also not sure, is it only activatable debuffs? Does it count for passive debuffs? It certainly wouldn't count for contact effects, otherwise that'd be literally just any Nurgle unit in melee, right? Because they all have poison. So I need to figure out, you know, seek a little bit of clarification on Creative Assembly's, from Creative Assembly's devs, I should say, to clarify how exactly the army ability charging up works. It definitely feels worse, I will say. Again, I'm a big feel guy. Like, I sometimes will go based on numbers, but a lot of the time I just go based on how things feel to play, right? And certainly the army ability feels worse. It feels like you don't get it as often, and you kind of have to almost have to build into debuffs specifically just to get fecundity, which doesn't feel great, to be honest. Like, again, I don't, maybe some of you guys can help me figure out the rationale of why that would need to be changed, but I can't really, I mean, it's not like a system that necessarily was broken before, but I don't know. What is broken is the leadership of many of these units on both sides as they flee from the battlefield. The Flamers, also suffering from demonic sadness, are going to pop and crumble there. So that's enough of that. Barons of the Bog also wheeling around and getting into melee combat here. The Soul Grinder of Nurgle firing in. Trying to take out those Sour Guts. Trying to prevent the Festering Stooges from taking too much damage, but yeah, they are taking the damage for sure. Those Flamers use up the last of their ammunition. The Sour Guts only have a handful of ammunition left, so it's looking pretty rough. The thing is, though, there's these two Centaur's great weapons, of course, for Tzeentch. What else would they be but Centaurs with great weapons? Yes, with the two Centaurs chasing some routing units of mine, Human Boy's doing a great job, as he should, cleaning up those units, making sure I can't bring anything back in to help. And also in the late game, I mean, those Centaurs have perfect vigor, of course, because of their rowdy trait. Their leadership is still good enough to maintain it, and that means they're going to be able to come in and potentially massacre me in the late game. Not that Festering Stooges are going to survive that long anyway. They kind of get weirdly, like, strung out and surrounded by just massive amounts of blues and pinks and everything else. Although they're a very strong tank unit typically, in this type of situation, they are going to take a lot more damage than I was expecting. Quite quickly, I was hoping I could get another fecundity to heal them back up. Of course, their healing is reduced, and I can show that here. Healing power, well, should be reduced if they're under flaming attacks. Maybe not, actually. They didn't remove that mechanic, did they? Interesting. Have to ask about that as well. But yes, we do get the one debuff just to charge up Sands of Sickness. Yeah, just to charge up fecundity a little bit, and I barely get it off on time. Okay, so on fire. That one does say on fire. Yeah, still says healing power 100% though. That's interesting. Maybe it's not reflecting correctly in the UI when a unit's on fire, the healing power being reduced, but Festering Stooges managed to survive momentarily until the Regiment of Renown Mutalith comes back in. It's going to activate its ability to just murder them, and Epidemius and Soul Grinder are going to get into combat against it. Yeah, the Festering Stooges there just taking all sorts of direct damage effects, Aura of Mutation, Demonic Instability, everything else. They're just going to pop and die, unfortunately. Epidemius remains in the Soul Grinder. Changeling / Blue Scribes out of ammunition. Well, let's just get in close and watch Epibro. He actually finishes the Mutalith Vortex Beast himself there, so one priority target down. Question is, can a Soul Grinder survive? See a little debuff there, a little devolve. Absolutely devastating devolve, actually, from the Blue Scribes, because it gives enough of a leadership penalty to force him into demonic instability, which then causes a bunch of extra damage, which then causes extra demonic instability, and causing a cascading effect for the Soul Grinder of Nurgle to just die. So that's maybe the best evolve I've ever seen since it was changed from a damage spell to a debuff. Just absolutely devastating leadership debuff there from the Blue Scribes. They might have had a few zombie summons and other stuff throughout the battle as well. I don't know. Definitely a fun battle, fun game, fun lore. The fact that you can take Changeling into Blue Scribes now. Definitely a good time for all, except for Epidemius and his Nurgle forces here as they lay scattered and strewn across the field. Finally, the Centaurs with great weapons come in to just mercifully end it. Epidemius can't do much except just sit here and check his list, and oh look, it just says dead all the way down. He suffers his own demonic instability there, Sands of Sickness, giving a little debuff to the enemies. Not enough to get one last fecundity. and Epidemius falls there. So very good game to Human Boy. Definitely a fun one for sure. I love the blade winding of his own troops there at the very end. Yes, that is the way to finish for sure. So there you go. Yeah, Festering Stooges. About 1,200 value on them. Soul Grinder also does great. Epidemius, about 1,300 value on him. Unfortunately, we don't get to see the value from the Exalted Plague Bearers, but my guess is they probably got decent value as well, throwing their Death's Heads at that Megalith Vortex Beast. Yeah, the Nurgle Chariots, I just kind of sacrificed them, so not really much evaluation to be done there. And the Marauders, a little bit of a mixed bag. Some of them did okay. Most of them got blasted, though. Pretty hard. Centaurs of Tzeentch, just super strong as always. The Regiment Renowned Megalith Vortex Beast, also pretty solid these days. Definitely pays for itself. Flamers also, one of them pays for themselves, which is nice to see. And then the Demonic Infantry for Tzeentch, just generally pretty cost-effective. Their shooting attacks definitely help them pay for themselves quite easily. So a fun one for sure. Epidemius is interesting. Will he be meta? Absolutely not. Will he be okay? Yeah, he'll be there, which I think is fine for a free LC Lord, you know? Like, they don't need to be the most powerful by any means, but they should be a fun kind of option you can pick, potentially. And you could sort of tier into a heavy summon build, right? Well, I say heavy summon build. You only get 2 summons with him plus Occultist, which might actually be a decent combination against maybe some non-missile heavy matchups. If you take the Cultist up on his shrine, right, then you get some AoE healing as well to kind of help support the blob of demons that you might have around Epidemius, or you might not have any demons and just choose to take him only for the summon and the debuff, like I did here in this battle. Definitely would have been beneficial have that extra little demon buff, but that's okay. That's also it for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.